Namaskara and a very warm welcome to one and all. On this auspicious Thursday morning of 28th November 2025, we gather in this serene space to celebrate 6th day of Santhavani, a timeless confluence of saints, scriptures, music, and the shared spiritual heritage of our nation. As the gentle rays of dawn carries the fragrance of devotion, today we begin not merely a program, but a sacred journey moving through the wisdom of saints, the messages of great traditions, and the music that binds our hearts. With folded hands, I welcome our esteemed speakers, distinguished guests, Rasikas, and everyone assembled here to partake in this day of enlightenment. Let us begin our first session of the day, Santa Chintana, with the spiritual luminaries of the Tanjore province. The 17th and 18th centuries gifted us saints such as Narayana Tirtha, Upanishad Brahmendra, Sadashiva Brahmendra, Bodhendra, and the divine composer Tyagaraja. Their lives continue to inspire generations with their devotion, philosophy, and music. It is our honor to welcome today's first speaker, Dr. Sudha Seshayyan, Director and Indo-Japan G20 Chair, Professor Shastra, and former Vice Chancellor, the Tamil Nadu Dr. MGR Medical University, Chennai. A scholar of rare brilliance and orator of extraordinary grace, and a respected interpreter of Bharatiya knowledge traditions. Madam, welcome to you. Please grace the stage. I would like to call on the stage my colleague, Sri Prakash Kamatji, to introduce.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning to all. It's my pleasure to give a brief introduction of today's speaker, Dr. Sudha Seshayyan. We are honored to introduce Dr. Sudha Seshayyan, Director of Shastra Chennai Campus, Vice Chairperson of the Central Institute of Classical Tamil, and former Vice Chancellor of the Tamil Nadu Dr. MGR Medical University, Chennai. A distinguished medical doctor, teacher, administrator, educationist, author, and spiritual scholar, Dr. Sudha is an alumna of Madras Medical College with additional qualifications in public administration, hospital management, Indian philosophy, and Vaishnavism. With over 3 decades of experience, she has contributed immensely to medical sciences, science communication, Indian knowledge systems, literature, and value education. She has served on the international advisory and editorial boards of Gray's Anatomy, edited a 3-volume textbook of anatomy, pioneered the Tamil translation of the Britannica Concise Encyclopedia, and authored over 30 titles spanning science, spirituality, and literature. A celebrated orator, translator, quiz master, and cultural ambassador, she has delivered acclaimed spiritual discourses worldwide and translated Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam's book into Tamil. Her illustrious career has been recognized with numerous honors, including the Ad Hominem Fellowship of the Royal College of Surgeons, Edinburgh, the first Indian woman to receive it. The Lifetime Achievement Award of the American Tamil Medical Association, the Kalai Mamani Award, the Pravachana Chudamani, the Kambar Award, the Sangeeta Vachaspati Award, and the Devi Award, among many others. In 2024, she was conferred the Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Award for Science Writing in Tamil for her book on Viruses Uyaratra Uyir. Doctor, hope my pronunciation is correct. A true polymath, Dr. Sudha Seshayyan continues to inspire generations with her knowledge, eloquence, and vision. I now request Dr. Sudha Seshayyan to present her paper. Thank you.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Pranams to everyone here. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha. Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. It's my privilege and honor to be here as part of the Santhavani and pay respects to all those sons and gurus who have taken this great land of Bharat on a path of glory. Without much ado, I would like to embark on my journey into the topic assigned to me, the sons from the Tanjore area, anglicized as Tanjore, especially the sons of the 17th and 18th century. Before treading into the contributions of these saints of the 17th and 18th century, I would like to have a small recap of what had happened until that time, or at least in the few decades which led to the 17th and 18th century. What exactly was the setting at that point of time? Between the 6th and the 10th centuries, there was a great bhakti renaissance in South India, especially the Tamil-speaking land, which then included what is currently called Kerala. That was part of the Chera territory of the Tamil land. Almost the entire southern region was in the grip of the Bhakti Renaissance, greatly contributed by the Alvars, the 12 Alvars who were the Vaishnavite saints, and the 63 Nayanmars, and of course, another set of Shaiva saints. Nayanmars were 63 in number, but then we do find that some of the other Shaiva saints were not part of the 63. For example, the top picture here shows 4 of them who are usually called the Shaiva Nalvar. Nalvar meaning the 4, the Shaivite 4. Of the 4, Tirunjana Sambandar, Tirunavukarasar and Sundarar form part of the 63. Manikavachagar, who was the author of Tiruvachagam, was not part of the 63. And there were also another horde of Shaiva saints. Put together, the Shaiva canonical work is called the Panniru Tirumurai, or the 12 books, or the 12 books of Shaivite hymns. So the geopolitical and social causes had led to the Bhakti movement. Factor number 1, from the 6th to the 10th century, a very vibrant Bhakti movement was existent. Of course, the 3 gurus and their legacies also influencing at this point of time. Then came a system where temple arts proliferated. Music and dance in the worship, singing hymns in temples became a part of the Tamil land. Especially thanks to kings like Rajaraja Chola and Rajendra Chola, singing the hymns of Tevaram, singing the hymns of various saints became part of the worship ritual. There were musicians and dancers who had been assigned the singular task of singing and dancing in front of the deity in the temples. And then came the Maratha rulers of Tanjore, and the rule of the Maratha kings precipitated the entire system into the Sant legacy. The Maratha rulers were contributory not only to the promotion of arts and culture, but they themselves were great saints. They composed certain dance dramas. They were great worshippers. They contributed to the cultural milieu of the land and also promoted several other sons. The half brother of Chhatrapati Shivaji started the Maratha rule. Venkoji or Vyankoji or Ekoji as he is called, quickly succeeded by kings like Sarfoji I, Sarfoji II, and several others. Sarfoji II is famously known to be the collector and the establisher of the Saraswati Mahal library. So all these factors jointly contributed to a very robust cultural background, and in this background came the sons of the Tanjore region. Friends, I don't think it would be possible for anyone to do justice to this very topic, in the sense it may not be possible to think of all these sons, think of all their contributions in a span of about 80 to 90 minutes. And pardon me, I am no Agastya. I do not have the capacity of kind of shrinking the entire ocean and putting it in about 70 to 80 minutes. And I don't think even Sage Agastya would be in a position to do complete justice, given the kind of contribution that has come from the various saints of the region. At the outset, let me also confess that I would not be treading much into the lives of the music trinity, because that is another separate ocean by itself. Tyagaya, Dikshitar and Shyama Sastri. It's not only Tyagaya, but then the other two also belong to the same region. All three of them were born in Tiruvarur, which is part of the Kaveri Delta. And of course, they later on spread out, but then Tyagaya and Shyama Sastri remained in the same region, though Muthuswami Dikshitar had spread out elsewhere. So I would like to confine myself to the rest of the sons possible, and kindly pardon me if I'm forced to skip certain details for paucity of time. Narayana Tirtha, who apparently lived between 1675 and 1750, was one of the early sons we meet in this region. He was a native of Kasa, which is a land near Mangalagiri. His birth name was Govinda Shastri. As a child, he evinced a lot of interest in Telugu, Sanskrit, music and dance. And even as a child, he was involved in a deep study of Srimad Bhagavatam and Jayadeva's Gita Govindam. It is said that he took Diksha from Shivarama Tirtha, and he was also afflicted by a disease which is generally depicted as a kind of a stomach ache. We are not very sure as to what exactly this disease was, but then It is said that he had incessant stomach ache, and as a search for relief, he was traveling up and down on a kind of a kshetradana, trying to go to different places. And it is when that he reached the Kaveri area, the river Kaveri, and he reached a place by name Gunashekaram. And this Gunashekaram is supposed to be a center where Ujjivana Perumal, the Lord by name Ujjivana Perumal, has manifested here. And true to the name, the Lord is supposed to be conferring Ujjivanam, trying to kind of rejuvenate life. And this is where Narayana Tirtha sought some relief. And when he was staying in that area, one night he had a dream. And Lord Vishnu appeared in the dream and told him, follow the animal that you would sight the very next morning. Whichever animal you sight early tomorrow morning, follow that animal. And next morning as he woke up, he found a wild boar standing in front of him. And that itself gave him the significance, because that was not an area of forest. It was more an area where people had inhabited. So he thought that is the divine indication and followed the boar. And the boar led him to another small village called Bhupati Rajapuram. This Bhupati Rajapuram is these days called Varahur, after Varaha, Varaha Ur, or the boar being called Varaha. And it is customary to refer to Narayana Tirtha as Varahur Mahakavi or Varahur Narayana Tirtha. And that's an illustration to indicate that he followed a wild boar in one of those mornings. Staying at Varahur, he was relieved of his disease, and then he thought that was his abode. He established several utsavas dedicated to Krishna and Vishnu. He also composed some bhajans and kirtans. He sang them and sang other kirtans and bhajans on Krishna. And he also established a unique festival remembering Krishna, Krishna's childhood play. This is the Uriyadi. Uri is a Tamil name. But to recap as to what this Uriyadi is, to have pots hung up high there, and as Krishna would climb and take the Navanita and the curd from the pots of the pots in the houses of Ayarpadi, the same festival, same thing is kind of recapped in a festival, and this is called the Chikyotsav or the Uriyadi. Later, we do not know for what reason he moved to another village near Varahur. This village is called the Tiruppoonturuthi. It is about 4 miles from Varahur, and he attained Samadhi at Tiruppoonturuthi. Even today, Tiruppoonturuthi is the place where a vibrant Narayana Tirtha festival is conducted, and the Uriyadi is a very famous festival of that time. Narayana Tirtha composed the Krishna Leela Tarangini. And it is not wrong to say that Krishna Leela Tarangini had been inspired by Gita Govindam. This is a musical drama, and very often claimed to be the first full-length musical dance drama of Sanskritam. The episodes as recapped in Krishna Leela Tarangini are based on the Dasamaskanda of Srimad Bhagavatam. And Narayana Tirtha himself says, why exactly Tarangam? Why did he call it Tarangam? Tarangam would mean the waves, the lahari. And why did he call it the Tarangam? He says, the rains from the cloud called Gopala drenched Narayana. That is himself. It was a pouring rain, and the rain drenched Narayana. And the water flowed with all the waves of Krishna Leela. So the Tarangam is Krishna Leela. And this river, which flows through Narayana, it came down, touched Narayana, and flowed down. And this river shall flow to the fields of bhaktas and enrich them. So he called it Krishna Leela Tarangini. There are 12 tarangams, similar to Ashtapadi, 153 kirtans. There are also in between some verses, 267 verses, and about 60 songs, which can again be subclassified as 60 darus and 30 darus and 30 gadyams. And he has used several rare ragas. Carnatic musicians generally claim that if Narayana Tirtha had not been there, we would not have obtained some of those ragas which were in vogue but then could not get transmitted later. So maybe ragas like Dvijavanti, Desakshi, Karnataka Saranga are the ragas which were used by Narayana Tirtha and then came down. It is also said that he composed other works, but those works are not available to us. And what talks about Narayana Tirtha today is his Krishna Leela Tarangini. In Krishna Leela Tarangini, he talks about the greatness of Bhagavan Nama and then goes on to say, Rama Nama Gangaya, Milita Krishna Nama Yamune, Govinda Nama Saraswati Pratite. Meaning it's a Triveni. So you say Rama, Krishna and Govinda, that's a sacred Triveni that would sanctify whomsoever utters these three names. And in one of those Tarangam compositions, he goes on to sing the glory of Vishnu, Narayanaya Namo Madhavaya, Nagendra Shayanaya Nandita Akila Lokaya, Nabi Kamala Janita Vidhi Mukaya, Nutana Jaladara Paya, Nana Charachara Nari Nararupaya. He starts with Vishnu, he starts with Narayana, goes on to talk about the Nabi, Kamala and Sarasija or Brahma, but then takes it to that level of sublimation to say, everything on this earth, Chara, Achara, whatever that moves and whatever that does not move, Nari, Nara, Rupaya, whatever is feminine, whatever is masculine, whatever that's found on this earth, not necessarily only the earth, the universe, entire thing is Narayanaya. And that was his vision. And there are several songs which can be quoted from the Tarangam, and all of them almost talk about the greatness, the glory. And he goes on to say in one of those Tarangam songs, Patipati Luntita Dati Pandam, Papa Timira Shata Marthandam, Adiga Palodrita Jagatandam, Ananda Bodha Rasam Akandam. This is a Pandam, and this Pandam has to be merged with the Dadi Pandam of Krishna, and Krishna would take us on the path of glory. That is Narayana Tirtha. And we're not very clear as to when Narayana Tirtha was born, though we give some kind of a date, and these dates are kind of culled out from relevant information referring to several other of the saints of the area. And the annual festival of Uriyadi, which happens during the Janmashtami at Varahur, is extremely famous, and people who hail from the region, natives of Varahur and natives of the Kaveri region, make it a point to make themselves available during the Uriyadi, whichever part of the globe they are. They come back to Varahur and celebrate this Uriyadi. We now move to one of the great names of the region, Sadashiva Brahmendra. And we can only say circa 1700. because again, we are not very clear. The details are not clearly explicable. I would give you the reason as to what happens. As we go through the details, we'll find Sadashiva Brahmendra was unique in several aspects. We do get meager information on his birth and childhood. He should have lived circa 1700. Initially, he was christened Sivaramakrishnan. He belonged to a Telugu-speaking family. And he was also fondly called Pichukuppan when he was a small child. And the reason that he took to sannyasa is something unique and something a little weird also. Sivaramakrishnan was given to the study of Shastras and Vedanta quite early. And he was also married very early. And his guru was the 57th pontiff of the Sri Kanchi Kamakoti Peetham. The Kanchi Kamakoti Peetham in those days was stationed at Kumbakonam. More so of their activities were close to Tanjore and Kumbakonam. So as he was stationed in that area, he became an ardent devotee of the 57th pontiff. It so happened that he was married early, but every day he would go to the mutt and then have some kind of siksha from the guru. One day, when he was coming back from his study, it isn't moving, something. Can we go back, escape and come back? He came back from the time of his study, came back home. He was hungry. He wanted to eat. But then he found the entire house was jubilant, and then, there were a lot of people coming, and then suddenly he found his in-laws, his father-in-law and mother-in-law, and then he was trying to find out as to what was happening. This is completely gone. I don't find anything here. If it's okay, I can continue with that. Or, take your time, don't worry about it. See, when he came back, he found a lot of people at home, and people were rejoicing. And the reason, if we go back to those years, that small little girl who was his wife had attained puberty. So it was a reason for joy and happiness. And then his mother had informed the mother of the girl, and then they had come. Probably they belonged to a neighboring village, and they had come. And people were all talking about it, and this girl was somewhere inside. But this boy was hungry. So he said, I want to eat. Why is food still not ready? Because that's his usual time that food will be ready. So he said, why is food not ready? And his mother obviously told him, wait, you will have to wait. Food is still not ready. There are certain rituals and formalities that we need to do. Only after that, food will be prepared. And, as she told this, she said, what? If you are a grihastha, you will have to undergo some difficulties and you will have to adjust. You will have to adjust for many things if you are a grihastha. So the boy went out, sat and thought, if I am a grihastha, I have to go through several difficulties, which would hamper me from thinking about God. And even before I entered the grihasthahood, if I have to go through these difficulties, and my attention is completely diverted. Why do I need this grahasthashram? Let me quit. No return. He left his place, left his house, went off. And that is how he went in for his sannyasa. And then he was a roaming sannyasi, going here, there, everywhere. And the initial diksha that he got from the 57th pontiff, plus after roaming around also, he went and met the pontiff who was stationed in other places. So he is supposed to have imbibed all that from that pontiff. And true to that diksha, he composed a work called the Shiva Manasika Puja. Shiva Manasika Puja, because the pontiff was called Parama Shivendra Saraswati. So it is said that it is that influence that made him compose this Shiva Manasika Puja. And then as he roamed about, there are several instances which are claimed to have happened, several miracles as we would call them today. He lost consciousness of his physical body, complete loss of consciousness of things around, and he was in perfect merger with the Brahman. There are some instances which had happened, and these instances are quoted very often as part of his life. He was somewhere on the banks of the river Kaveri and Amaravati. Amaravati is one of the tributaries of Kaveri. And he also became an avaduta. And since he was an avaduta, he was naked. He would not come and mingle with everyone. He was in areas where he would be covered by the forest or he would be not seen by others. However, he would still walk about. When he had to move, he would walk about somewhere, and there were chances that people saw him. Sometimes he would sit on those sand dunes, either in the middle of the Kaveri river, which was exposed because water flow was less, or somewhere on the banks. It is said once he was sitting on one of those sand dunes, and after some time there were floods, and the flood closed the sand dune, and people in the village thought, okay, even Brahmendra has been drowned. And 2-3 months went past. Everyone forgot about him, thinking that he had been washed away. And there was so much of water flow, they did not bother to think what was happening underneath the water. And 3-4 months later, the water drained, reduction of water level, the sand dune came up, but still it did not reveal anything. There was a sand dune. And some children who were playing went there. And with the children, some elders also went, and they were trying to, take that sand and use it for something. When they were plucking out that sand, they found something was underneath, something hit them. And then they tried with careful look, they tried to take out that sand and see what was inside, and they found Brahmendra sitting there completely in dhyana. And as they removed all that sand and all that, he got up, and without even saying anything, he walked away. But then people had sighted him. He must have been there for about 4 or 5 months or something. And several instances like that. It says that, will we be able to get, because I have some of those illustrations. Yeah, no problem. And once he was walking naked in some area where there was a local chieftain. He belonged to a different faith, and he was with his queens. And looking at the naked man walking past, he had a suspicion that this naked man had come because the queens were all there. And what is this? This is, not being modest. This man is walking here completely naked in the presence of my queens. So this chieftain took a sword and walked up to the naked man, cut his arm. And the naked man did not bother. He was just walking, blood pouring out. And that part of the arm had fallen down, but he was completely unperturbed, painless. He was walking. Looking at that chieftain became a little apprehensive. What is this? Somebody walking like that? So he ran and begged pardon, saying, I underestimated your greatness. I'm sorry. And the Avaduta Jnani did not bother. He just turned round. He said, don't worry, nothing has happened to me. Picked up that piece of the arm and kind of kept it in the original place. It got stuck. He walked away. And similar instances, sorry about that break. As we saw, he had become an Avaduta. And what is this? That he became a Mauni. In the presence of his guru, one day he was given a very weird instruction. The reason, as a youngster, he was very talkative, in the sense he would always argue with other saints and jnanis and then say, this is this, this is this. He was so learned, and he was so involved in Upanishads and Vedas and all that. So he would always argue sometimes. And one day the guru said, what? Will you not keep shut? Will you keep on arguing like this? Will you keep on talking like this? Will you not keep shut? That became a divine instruction. From that day he became a Mauni. He did not speak to anyone after that. And several instances, this is an illustration to show that the arm had been kind of cut off, and the Avaduta Jnani kept walking away. And this is a sculpture that we find, a bas-relief sculpture recapping the incidents that happened. And this is where, when he was told to keep shut, and from then on he became a Mauni, he would not talk. But then you would ask me as to how he composed all those kirtans and all that came. That happened a little later, when someone requested him. Sridhara Ayyaval is supposed to have requested him to open up and sing kirtans. That is when he left his maunam and started pouring out all those kirtans. And his Bhiksha Patra was his hand, nothing else. He was a complete Avaduta, and he claimed himself to be a Sarvatra Sada Hamsa Dhyani. His mantram was Hamsa, 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 and that is why his mudra in the kirtans is also Hamsa or Paramahamsa. And several miracles can be quoted, can be related. It is also said that once, when he was in the Kaveri area, there were some small children playing around. And he was very fond of small children, and he would play along with them. And these children expressed their desire to go to Madurai. Madurai is a little away. Even today, it takes about 2.5 to 3 hours of journey from the Kaveri area to Madurai. These children said, we want to see the temple Utsav in Madurai. We are interested in seeing them, but our parents cannot afford to take us, and we cannot afford to go. So he told those children, close your eyes, and then lifted them. Like, 2 small children on one side and 2 others on the other side. He asked them to close their eyes, and after a while he asked them to open their eyes. When they opened, they found they were all in Madurai temple, witnessing the Utsav. And then the same way he brought them back. Within about a few hours, they had gone to Madurai, witnessed the Utsav, and they were back to their homes by the evening. So such things, and it is also that there are certain evidences. We may ask as to how these happen, but there are certain evidences to give that these happened. There was a person who could not speak anything, and he was an illiterate. But he would watch Sadashiva Brahmendra sitting in dhyana and then worshipping or something. He would watch from a distance. So sometimes Brahmendra would call him, come here by sign language, and he would come. And that man became a kind of an ardent devotee of Brahmendra, would go wherever he went. So after some time, he imparted some mantras to him. And this man, who was an illiterate and who could not even speak, later became a kind of a poet. And it is said that the descendants are even currently living in Nerur. Nerur, which is close to a town called Karur. Nerur is the place of Samadhi of Sadashiva Brahmendra. And this man who became a Pandit was called the Akasha Shastri. And this Akasha Shastri's descendants lived there. It also happened that once when he was wandering in the forest area of the Kaveri belt, one of the kings of Pudukkottai Tondaman, who had kind of relinquished his Grahastha status, and then he himself was interested in dhyana and spirituality, he was also roaming around. And then he met Brahmendra and he asked for some upadesha. Brahmendra wrote, because he could not speak. He was ordained by his guru to keep shut, so he was a Mauni then. He would not speak, but then he wrote some mantra on the sand, on the river sand. And Tondaman took the river sand to the palace, and then the palace is supposed to have advanced well, and they had a very joyous life, the descendants. And that sand is still kept in a small little box in the Pudukkottai palace. So these were several instances that had happened, but then Sadashiva Brahmendra would not give heedance to a comfortable life or a palatial life and all that. And though he had composed several works, Sivamanasika Puja and Atma Vidya Vilasam are the most important ones, and then his Kirtans. In his Sivamanasika Puja, he asks a question. He looks at Shiva and asks a question. He says, Kiyadasanam prakalpyam, what kind of a throne that I could give you? What kind of an asana that I could give you? Because you are Sarvatopi Shiva. You are seated everywhere and you are everywhere. What kind of a seat can I give you? Padyam Kritorgyam api va apadyam sarvatra pani padasya. Your sarvatra pani padasya, you have your pani and pada all over. And for you, what kind of a padyam can I give and what kind of an argyam can I give? It is not possible because you're all over. You're everywhere. And that was his philosophy. And then he also kind of asks another question in yet another verse of Sivamanasika Puja. He says, Deepaha katam shikavan deepyeta puraha swayam prakashasya. You're a swayam prakasha. And please tell me, when I light a lamp, that Deepa Jyoti is a little embarrassed because you are swayam prakasha, and this Deepa Jyoti does not know how to put its head up. It does not know how to kind of, dance there. Deepaha shikavan deepyeta. With that shikai, it cannot come up. So how would it do that? Katam shikavan deepyeta, because you're the swayam prakasha. And the Sivamanasika Puja is full of Vedantic glory. And we find his Kirtans, which are being sung in music concerts regularly. They are very popular. It so happens that though the Kirtans are very popular, sometimes they are sung without being referred to Sadashiva Brahmendra, because not many people know that they are Kirtans of Sadashiva Brahmendra. And very many of these Kirtans Kindly permit me to remind you of some of these kirtans before we move to Sridhara Ayyaval. One of the famous ones is this Bajare Gopalam, Manasa Bajare Gopalam, wherein these are very simple words, not much of Vedantic philosophy as we think Vedanta would be. I would just read out some of these lines and we can understand these are extremely simple descriptions of the Lord. But then so much of significance inside these words and lines. Bhajagopalam Bhajita Kuchelam Trijaganmoolam Diti Ditistakalam Diti Sutta Kalam. Diti Sutta would mean the Daityas, the sons of Diti. And you are the Kalan, you are the Yama for all the Diti Suttas. Agamasaram Yoga Vicharam Bhoga Shariram Bhuvanadharam Kadana Katoram Kalusha Viduram Madana Kumaram Madhu Samharam. Kadana Katoram Kalusha Viduram, you're the dispeller of all our sorrows and miseries. And you have Manmata as your son, Madana Kumaram. Madhu Samharam, you're the one who slayed Madhu the Rakshasa. And the last line says, Natha Mandaram Nanda Kishoram Hatha Chanuram Hamsa Viharam. Natha Mandaram, you're the Mandara tree for all those who worship you. Whomsoever bows down in front of you, you're the Mandara. You would give anything. Nanda Kishoram, Hatha Chanuram, you killed Chanura, and your Hamsa Viharam. So very simple lines. Smaravaram Varam, Chetaha Smara Nanda Kumaram. Smara Varam Varam. Keep on thinking about him. Keep on having in your memory, Chetaha, to his own mind he says, Nanda Kumaram Smara. And then the last line here says, Paramahamsa Hrit Panjara Kiram Patutara Denu Baka Samharam. Denukasura and Bakasura, you're the one who killed. Simple lines. Gosha Kutira Payagrita Choram Gokula Brindavana Sancharam. The one who stole the butter and the milk, and he was there in Brindavan. Similarly, yet another popular kriti is that Manasa Sancharare, Brahmani Manasa Sancharare. There again, it's a very simple set of lines, a simple verse. Madashiki Pinchala Alankrita Chikure. The one who's kind of adorned with the peacock's feathers. Mahaniya Kapola Vijita Mukure Paramahamsa Mukha Chandra Chakore Paripurita Muralir Avadare. And the line that says Paramahamsa Mukha Chandra Chakore is a wonderful line. Normally, the Chakora bird is supposed to go towards the moon and only drink the nectar from the moon. And the Chakora is not supposed to come down at all. It would not come down, they say. But then who's normally equated to a Chakora? Chakora will be the devotee and the Chandra would be the Lord. The devotee goes and drinks the nectar of the Lord. But here see the twist. He says, Paramahamsa Mukha Chandra Chakore. He's calling the Lord to have become a Chakora bird. And my Lord, you're so amused and so pleased to drink the nectar from the faces of the Paramahamsas, the faces of the devotees. So it's a beautiful tweak on the relationship between the Bhakta and the Bhagavan. And several verses like that, Gayati Vanamali, Madhuram Gayati Vanamali, where again he says, Paramahamsa Hridyot Savakari Paribhurita Murali Ravadari. There would be some repetitions of lines in these verses, and Yet another of the famous kirtans is Pibare Ramarasam. Janana Marana Baya Shoka Viduram Shakala Sastra Nigamagama Saram Paripalita Sarasija Garbandam Parama Pavitri Krita Bhashandam. It's fine. Paripalita Sarasija Garbandam is fine. You're the one who's protecting the entire universe, which was the Hiranyagarbha's Garbham, Sarasija Garbandam. All that is fine. But then the next line says, Parama Pavitri Krita Pashandam. Even those false people, even those who put up a kind of a face, you do sanctify them. Parama Pavitri Kritam. So you're sanctifying them, and you are that Rama, Pibare Ramarasam. That Ramarasam would do all these things. Kelati Mama Hridaye. And one of the kirtans to get early popularity, one of the kirtans of Sadashiva Brahmendra is Bruhi Mukunteti, which was sung by M.S. Subbalakshmi in one of the early movies and gained popularity, Bruhi Mukunteti. And this is plain narration of the namas. Keshava Madhava Govinda Iti. Krishnananda Shadanandeti. That is all. Only the namas. Keshava, Madhava, Govinda, and all these namas. Krishnananda Shadanandeti. Radha Ramana Hare Rameti Rajivaksha Ganashyameti. Garuda Gamana Nandaga Hasteti. Kantita Dasha Kandara Masteti. That is where there is a storyline coming in. Kantita Dasha Kandara Masteti. The one who kind of slayed the 10 heads of Ravana. Akrura Priya Shakra Radeti Hamsa Niranjana Kamsa Hareti. The one who killed Kamsa. Otherwise, it's plain narration of the names and the glory of the Nama which comes out in all these kirtans. After Sadashiva Brahmendra, we move to Sridhara Ayyaval. Of course, it's not there in the invitation if you would take, but then I thought we would look at Sridhara Ayyaval for a short while because he was a contemporary of Sadashiva Brahmendra. The incidences that we get from the life of Sadashiva Brahmendra, and these incidences were kind of coined, and how did we derive upon a line that he belonged to the 17th and 18th century is because of the relationship that he has had with Sridhara Ayyaval and the incidences, the evidences of their meeting. Sridhara Ayyaval was called Trivisanallur Sridhara Venkatesa Ayyaval. He also belonged to a Telugu-speaking family, and his father was in the Mysore Samsthan as a high-ranking official. But the son became extremely austere. And when the father left his job, the Mysore Samsthan was prepared to kind of appoint the son in the same place. But then the son refused, and he migrated to the Tanjore area and kind of took the small village Thiruvisainallur as his place. And again, several instances which are related in the life of Sridhara Ayyaval. It is said that once, as he was roaming in that area, he found one lady crying violently and a big crowd there. So he went and asked them what happened. And the lady said her husband had died. And he looked amidst the crowd. He found one body lying there, the body of the man. And looking at it and trying to touch and examine, he found that man should have been dead at least 36 hours ago from the time he saw. And he was bit by a snake. And he asked them all to move a little away, sat in dhyana. And after a while, after about 2-3 hours, another snake came and took out all the poison, but that snake died. And this man came back to life. And Ayyaval got up, and they were all jubilant that the man came back. So he got up, and as he was moving away, he said, please perform the funeral rites to that snake, because that snake has died and given life here. So please perform the funeral rites. And one other instance in the life of Sridhara Ayyaval. This is the well that we find in Tiruvissai Nallur. You know, he did not have any kind of caste creed difference, and he would kind of talk to everyone, and then he would be kind of friendly to everyone. So one day, because the other people thought that he had offered food to some untouchable, as was customary those days, especially on a Shraddha day. He had offered food to an untouchable man. The rest of the people in the village kind of made him an outcast. He did not bother about it. But then they came to him and said, you'll have to make amends for that. You will have to do a parikara. And he said, what? What kind of a parikara do you want me to do? You will have to do a parikara by bathing in Ganges. That means he has to go to Ganges. Like, he has to leave the village. He said, that is all? That is all. Yes, I will do it in front of you. And I'll prove that what I did is not wrong. And what he did was, he prayed to Ganga. And Ganga came in that well. Sri Vishnupada Sambhute Sambhu Murta Nivasini. Both ways. You're from Vishnupada and you're Shambhus. You're living in the persona of Shambhu Murti. Dvijanam Pratyarthancha Kupastamat Samudbhava. You come in this kupam, you come in this well, you appear in this well. And Ganga appeared in that well, and that is that well. Even today, there is a festival, an annual festival that happens every time in Tiruvissai Nallur. And this celebrates the Samudbhavam of Ganga Jal, and it's called the Ganga Akarshanam. And he is supposed to have completed his Ganga Ashtakam. The Ganga Ashtakam is in existence, and that's the first sloka of the Ganga Ashtakam. And this particular incidence happens sometime in the month of Kartika, they say. But then it is done every time. It's annually done on the Kartika Amavasya day. And Sridhara Ayyaval attained Siddhi at Tiruvadai Marudur. And you can see the current pontiff of the Kanchi Kamakoti Peetam performing the pujas at the same well at the Kupam in Tiruvissai Nallur. Sridhara Ayyaval and Sadashiva Brahmendra have met. So that's one indication to say that they belong to this period. Otherwise, we have very, very meager information on their dates of birth and dates of death. Now, to go back to Sadashiva Brahmendra, the reason that I wanted this information to be associated is that Sadashiva Brahmendra went and settled in a place called Nerur. That is why he is called Nerur Sadashiva Brahmendra. But then where did he attain Samadhi? That again is a question mark. Nerur, there is a Samadhi. And he also is supposed to have attained Samadhi at the Onkar Kshetra on Narmada bank. There also there is a Samadhi. And then there is a Samadhi in Mana Madurai, which is on the banks of river Vaigai. Again, there is a Samadhi, he is supposed to have attained Samadhi at Varanasi on the banks of Ganga. And one other place is Karachi on the banks of Sindhu. So 5 places where he is supposed to have attained Samadhi. And what do we take? These are called Samadhi Panchaka Sthalas. All 5 are recognized. though Nerur is supposed to be the Mahasamadhi area. And the pontiffs of both Sringeri and Kanchi Mats would always say that it was his Sthula Sarira, his Sukshma Sarira, his Karana Sharira, and the 5 koshas, the Pancha koshas, which were attaining Samadhi at different places. So simultaneously, all this could have happened because he was Parabrahman himself. So these are, some of these, what current historians would say, lack of evidence of, exact history, but then history in the eyes of Bharatiyavasis is something different. And how long did Sadashiva Brahmendra roamed around on Bhuloka? How long was his sancharam on the Bhuloka? There again, lots of question marks by the current perspective. But then, he was the disciple of the 57th Acharya, Paramashivendra Saraswati Swami. That is why Shiva Manasika and all that. And this 57th Acharya's period was 1539 to 1586. And Sadashiva Brahmendra interacted with the 58th and the 59th pontiffs also. And the 59th pontiff was from 1638 to 1692. That is him, Bhagavan Nama Bodhendra. He was a contemporary, Sadashiva Brahmendra was a contemporary of Thiruvisanallur Sridhara Ayyaval, who is supposed to have lived from 1630 to 1730. And then he interacted with the Pudukkottai Thondaiman and of course Raja Shaji of Tanjore, because Shaji wanted to know if he could give him something. He said, I don't want anything. Whatever you want to give to others. And then it is also said a British officer happened to encounter Sadashiva Brahmendra at Kutralam near Tenkasi sometime in 1750. This man records that he saw an Avaduta and he was so irritated that this man was naked. He picked up his revolver to shoot at him. And as he fired at the naked man, suddenly the naked man disappeared and there was a tiger. And immediately he put his revolver down and ran from that place, and then Brahmendra again manifested himself. So this record pertains to 1750. So from 1539 or 1550 till 1750, he must have been there for about 200 and odd years, and must have had a Bhuloka Sancharam for at least 2 centuries or 2.5 centuries. And then we move to Bhagavan Nama Bodhendra, who happened to become the 58th pontiff, 59th pontiff. 58th pontiff was Atma Bodhendra. This boy was called Purushottam. He was born in Kanchipuram in the Kanva Gotra. And as a small little boy, he would go with his father to the mutt. The father would go to the mutt to be with the 58th Pitadipadi. So this boy also would go. And the small child would be playing here and there. One day, the Swamiji asked, Atma Bodhendra Swami asked, who's this child? And this child was born after many years to the couple. So the father said, he is Purushottam, he was born because of your grace only, because we prayed here and because of your grace. So he is the child of the mutt. Immediately Atma Bodhendra asked, if he is the child of the mutt, would you give him to me? Would you give him to the mutt? Though the father and the mother, were a little hesitant, they thought, okay, if that is a divine ordain, yes, we would give the child. So from that time onwards, the child, though staying with the parents, was kind of adopted by the mutt, and he was a pet child of the mutt, and whatever, he would only play in the mutt and he would be with the Acharya, he would learn from the Acharya. So he became a disciple of the pontiff. And Atma Bodhendra Swami once wanted to go to Kashi. So as he was planning to go to Kashi, this boy by then had grown up to be a youngster, and he had a friend who was also studying Vedanta and all that in the mud. And this friend was called Jnana Sagaran. So these two were there. And the Swami said, I am going to the Kashi. You don't have to come with me to Kashi right now. You stay here in Kanchipuram. And after a few months, you can come to Kashi. Until then, you be here. And though he had to part with the Acharya, which was very tough for him, he said, okay, because it's the Acharya's ordain, he said, fine. And the Acharya went to Kashi. After some time, these two boys started from Kanchi. And somewhere en route, they had kind of made a very, curious sankalpa. The two of them told to each other, if en route one of us happened to die, the other person should go to Kashi, do the last rites, and also die. So this is the sankalpa that we take. And both of them had taken the sankalpa, and it so happened that Jnanasagaran en route caught up a violent fever and died. So our this youngster, Purushottaman, he went all the way to Kashi. He had to inform the Acharya that such a thing had happened. He cannot just like that disappear. And after performing the rites, he said, I'm going to die. I came here to perform the rites of Jnanasagaran and I have to die. And this is when Atma Bodhendra Swami thought of Adi Shankara and then gave him a kind of a solution. He said, what happened to Adi Shankara? Adi Shankara, when he had to kind of continue his life, because his life had come to an end at the age of 8, and he had to continue doing something for the society. How did he convince his mother? He took sannyasa and convinced the mother. Sannyasa would prolong his physical life on earth, but then that ashrama is gone and this is a new ashrama. So similarly, I will not be an objection to your sankalpa. You can still die for the sake of your friend. You can keep up your word. You can keep up the sankalpa. You will die as Purushottama, but then you will become a sannyasi. So once you become a sannyasi, that ashrama is gone. That friendship that you had with your Jnanasagaran friend, that life is gone and you take a new life. So that is when he was made Bodhendra Swami. And the Acharya also ordained, you start now, get back to Kanchi. I want you to do something on the glory of Nama. By then itself, Purushottama was into the Nama Siddhanta. He went into it when he was in Kanchipuram itself. And even Atma Bodhendra Swami was a sincere, staunch practitioner of the Nama Siddhanta. There were occasions when people opposed and said, this is not the way you do it. You can't be just practicing only the Nama. There has to be much more. Siddhanta is much deeper, not mere chanting of the Namas. But then Atma Bodhendra would not even bother about it. He would say, no, I will continue to do that. Let there be opponents. And he wanted that to continue. So he told Nama Bodhendra, please go back to Kanchi. I would come back after some time. You go back to Kanchi, and on the way, you go to Puri. You go and meet the descendants of Lakshmidhara. Lakshmidhara had composed the Nama Kaumudi. You please go there and meet. And he did go to Puri, and there is again a very curious miracle that is supposed to have happened. He went to Lakshmidhara's house. Lakshmidhara's son was there. And the son was very happy to welcome Bodhendra. But then Bodhendra said, tonight I will stay in the outer pile, the Thinnai, and not come inside. I will be here. They conversed between themselves. They were together. But then that night he preferred to stay outside. So as he was staying on the pile, the same night, there was another man who came to this house. Lakshmidhara's son was a scholar. And very often he gave very scholarly solutions to disputes, including family disputes. So one couple came there. In the middle of the night, they woke up this man. What was the dispute? There was no dispute between the two of them, but it was a very unique thing. This man had taken the wife and they had gone on a kshetradana. Somewhere en route, this lady was snatched away by someone who belonged to a different faith. And when the man was a little away, he had gone somewhere, and this lady had been taken away. And having lost the wife, this man roamed around here, there, and all that, and was going about. And when he was crossing the same area again, one lady clad in a different kind of a dress, like, completely covered, she came and fell at his feet and said, "I'm your wife, do you recognize me?" But then she was in the attire of the garb of another faith. And she said, that man took me, and then, he did not behave with me well, misbehaved, and then I'm now this. Please accept me. Please don't ditch me. Please accept me. I would not come as a Sahadharmini of yours. I understand, because now I'm not chaste. I cannot claim to be your Sahadharmini, but then at least as a servant I would come with you. Let me keep doing the jobs of a servant in your house. And this man said, let's go to Puri. There is one scholar there. I would request him to give the solution. If he says that there is a parikara and you could be purified by that parikara, I would take you back as my wife. Otherwise, as you say, I will take you along with me to the house. Let's see what happens. So this man came and, knocked in the middle of the night. And the scholar came out. And our Bodhendra Swami was on the other side of the pile in the darkness. He was overhearing the entire conversation. And suddenly he blurted saying, let us see if this lady is pure or not. He blurted saying, you cannot give a secret solution. Today you give a solution, this man will accept, this husband will accept. But then when he takes her back, there could be objections from the society. So we'll have to prove to the society also that she is pure. So he said, in front of everyone, let us say Rama, Rama, Rama 3 times. And as she dips into the tank of the town and comes out, let's see if her current attire disappears and she comes back as one of the Sanatana Dharma. And it happened. She chanted Rama, Rama, Rama and took a dip in that tank. When she came back, she came with sindoor and all that. So he said, see, this is the glory of the Nama. And subsequently, he went about spreading the glory of the Nama, Nama Prabhavam. And Atma Bodhendra came back to Kanchipuram. And after some years, they both went to the Sedu Karai, but they could not go to Sedu. Atma Bodhendra attained Samadhi somewhere earlier on the banks of another river, and Gatana river. And subsequently, Bhagavan Nama Bodhendra ascended the throne, and he became the pontiff of the Kanchi Math. And he composed several granthas glorifying Bhagavan Nama. Either it is Rama or Krishna or whatever. Keep chanting the Nama. That Nama itself is enough. And that would give everything. You don't even have to know the philosophy. You don't have to have mastery of languages and all that. Bhagavan Nama will give you everything. And true to his name and scholasticity, he composed these granthas. Several granthas he's composed, but some of them are Namamrita Rasodayam, Namamrita Rasayanam, Namamrita Rasarnavam, Namamrita Suryodayam, Namamrita Tarangam, Harihara Beda Dikkaram, Harihara Advaita Bhushanam. All these, the essence of Vedanta. And it is generally, the entire legacy of that area, because on one side Namabodhendra. On the other side, Marudanallur Swamigal, who was a great professor of the Bhajan Sampradaya. Sadguru Swamigal he is called, and Sridhara Ayyawal. So the entire area reverberates with the kind of chants and namasankirtans and kirtans. And then we always say, Tam namami yati sreshtam bodhendram jagatam gurum. And he is that yasya smarana matrena nama bhaktihi prajayate. You just think of Nama Bodhendra. Yasya smarana matrena. Just think, immediately the Nama Bhakti comes in the minds of the devotee. Just about another few minutes left for us. As I told you, I would not go into the glory of the Sangeeta Trinity today because I don't think that is possible. The glory of Tyagaya, Shyama Sastri, Muthuswami Dikshidhar, everything to be shrunk. And I would also want people to remember, as we think of the Sangeeta Trinity as the Carnatic Trinity, there were also three others who belonged to the same period or a little earlier. Somewhere in the 1550s, which means 16th century, we had the Kirtans of Muthu Tandavar in the same area, in the area of Kaveri and Kolledam, which is close to Sirgali, Chidambaram and Sirgali. And a little later, by 1700s, Marimutta Pillai, who also composed a lot of kirtans on Nataraja of Chidambaram. Both Muthutandavar and Marimutta Pillai composed only on Nataraja. Of course, Marimutta Pillai did compose other books, including Hanuman Pillai Tamil and Hanuman Pralapam and all that. And we have Arunachala Kavirayar, who composed kirtans on Ramayana. Ramayana kirtans, which happens to be the first Nataka kirtan. Rama Nataka Kirtanas of Arunachala Kavirayar. Arunachala Kavirayar lived somewhere around 1750s to 1790 and all that. So this period again, not only the Sangeeta Trinity, but little before them were the three composers who composed in Tamil. So we call them the Tamil Trinity. Tyagaya composed in Telugu and a few in Sanskritam. Muttaya Dikshidhar predominantly on Sanskritam and Shyama Sastri also predominantly on Sanskritam. So they are composers of the Carnatic echelon and we call them the Carnatic Trinity. But these three are called the Adi Tamil Mover or the Tamil Trinity. And it would be a matter of interest to everyone associated with music. Muthu Tandavar is generally hailed the father of the Tridhatu Kirtan. The Pallavi Anupallavi Charana style evolved from Muthu Tandavar. And after Muthu Tandavar, it got fixed as that style, and we have it as a regular style in the Kirtans today. And Marimutta Pillai was the one who started composing what are called the Ninda Stutis. The advent of Ninda Stutis came from Marimutta Pillai. And both Muthu Tandavar and Marimutta Pillai composed a lot of padams. Though padams are not sung very often in the concerts today because they become very long and slow also. But they are taken up in dance. And these two composed the padams. And Muthu Tandavar disappeared at Chidambaram. He went to the Chidambaram Sanctum Sanctorum. Manikyavachakar disappeared at Chidambaram. Similar to that, Muthu Tandavar went and stood at the Sanctum Sanctorum of Chidambaram and he said, Manikyavachakar kanda peranakku tarayo. Will you not give me the same fate that you gave to Manikyavachaka? And it also goes that Muthu Tandavar every day would hear some word. Some devotees would speak something, he'll hear that word and start composing on that word. That would become the kirtan for the day. And once he completed the kirtan, there would be a coin appearing on the Balipita for his sustenance. So the 16th, 17th centuries had several of them. So we now come to Upanishad Brahmendra of the 18th century. Though Upanishad Brahmendra had connections with the Tanjore belt, he was more of the Palar area. He is sometimes referred to as Upanishad Brahmendra the second, because there was an earlier Upanishad Brahmendra the first, about 80, 90 years before Upanishad Brahmendra the second. He was born, Sivaraman, he was born at Brahmapuram on the banks of Palar, which is close to Kanchipuram. And he moved to Kanchipuram and he resided in Agastya Ashram. The place where he resided in Kanchipuram was called the Agastya Ashram, supposed to have been established by Agastya. And this place is close to the Kailasanatha temple in Kanchipuram. And he had put up a flag there, and that flag was kind of beckoning everyone to come, because that was a place, that ashrama, he always had a great satra of devotional singing, kirtans, bhajans and namavalis and all that. And people would go there, and it is said that he even invited Muthuswami Dikshitar and Tyaga Brahmam. Both of them are supposed to have met Upanishad Brahmendra in the area of Kanchipuram, one directly at the Agastya Ashram, the other one in another place in a mutt called the Rama Brahmam mutt, but we still do not know where exactly is that Rama Brahmam mutt as of today and who this Rama Brahmam was. And he was called Upanishad Brahmendra. He was called Brahmendra because of his Brahmadhyanam. But then he was called Upanishad Brahmendra because he wrote commentaries on 108 Upanishads. And exact date we do not know, but then there is a small clue. At the end of the Bhashyam to the Muktiko Upanishad, he sort of says it's completed on the 17th of December of 1751. So that is some indication. He has mentioned that date. So it's an indication, and he's supposed to have composed about 45,000 granthas. We don't have all of them, but then some of them are available. Ashtotra Sahasra Mahavakyavali, Gita Prasthana, Sutra Prasthana, Namartha Viveka, we do have. And when one Zamindar met him and wanted to give something, the Zamindar asked him, what do you want? He said, I don't want anything. But then the Zamindar insisted and gave some land, and that land is supposed to be where the mutt was established. But whether this happened to this Upanishad Brahmendra the second or the Upanishad Brahmendra the first, we still are not able to find out, because the time of the Zamindar appears to be a little vague. And the earlier pontiff of the Kanchi Mutt, Sri Jayendra Saraswati Swami, in the Upendra Mutt, the Upanishad Brahmendra Mutt, which is existent in Kanchipuram now, and all these are recorded in the mutt, and we do find the commentaries for the 108 Upanishads, those manuscripts being kept there. So when it was Jayendra Swamiji who visited this mutt, this photograph was taken then. So Tanjore, that's the Brihadiswara temple of Tanjore. Tanjore, because of the Maratha rule and because of the earlier enrichment with the Bhakti movement, attracted a lot of these spiritual gurus, and several of these gurus made the Kaveri belt, the rich Kaveri belt, their settlement. So thank you very much for the honor, and pranams on my personal behalf, and pranams from Kaveri and from the Tanjore belt for giving a very blissful 90 minutes to be with all the gurus and the sons. Thank you very much, and pranams.